Hey everybody, Ben back again, Shine Bright Auto Solutions. Today we're answering your questions about paint protection film, what it is, how much does it generally cost, and a little dive into explaining some of the background of it.
What exactly is paint protection film and how does it protect my car?
It's a fantastic question. So paint protection film is like the end all be all for protection. So a little background and history on it. Paint protection film was actually designed for its original use case in the military. I think specifically for helicopter blades in sandy environments. So it's designed to take a beating. Somewhere along the lines, it got picked up by a company called 3M. 3M started to produce it for the front end of vehicles and motorhomes, coaches, things like that. It got a bad rap early on because it would crack and fail in yellow. And so it turned a lot of people off. And that was like the clear bra phase of paint protection film. We've come a very, very long way in this industry. And so nowadays paint protection film can last anywhere between 5 to 10 years, depending on the manufacturer and the brand that you go with and the conditions of how you're maintaining it and storing the vehicle. PPF in essence is the best version of protection you can put on any of your vehicles or vessels. It is a physical barrier, so it has the thickest and most durable layer of protection that you can apply to said vehicle or vessel.
Is PPF the same thing as ceramic coating?
No. So paint protection film is a polyurethane film or urethane physical film that is applied to the surface of your paint or gel coat. So it differs from ceramic coating substantially because ceramic coating, as we covered in our other video, about ceramic coatings, is ceramic coating is a nanotechnology that actually chemically bonds to your paint. So when you're applying that coating, it is going to actually bond chemically to the surface of your paint. And it is a fantastic long-term protection product, but it is quite a bit different than something like paint protection film, which is a physical polyurethane or urethane layer going over your paint.
How long does PPF last and what kind of maintenance does it need?
So as discussed, it typically lasts 5 to 10 years depending on the brand and where they manufacture that film, and then your part, right? How are you maintaining it? How are you storing the vehicle? Is it constantly sitting outside in direct sunlight? So on and so forth. Great maintenance for a vehicle. I kind of treat maintaining paint protection film kind of like I would treat maintaining a ceramic coated car. I do want to wash it semi-frequently. I would say at bare minimum once a month. And then the biggest thing to do is to make sure that you're not using high pressure washers on the edges. A common failure point for paint protection film is somebody's out here with a pressure washer and they're blowing the front of your vehicle where you have seam lines and they get pressure, water built up right underneath the edge, and now it's lifted it up. That's a no-go, and it can be super easily avoided if you just use a low pressure washer and you kind of just have some general good wash techniques and common sense about the way that you're approaching maintaining your vehicle. There isn't any special chemicals that you need to put on PPF to ensure its longevity. It's really just about frequent washing and trying to keep it out of the sun for as much as possible. It does have UV inhibitors built into it, so it's great for your paint. And you do have to remember this is a product that you purchase to put on top of your paint to protect your paint. So don't get crazy about trying to protect the PPF, right? There's a lot of people that want to, spend tons of time and money making sure that the paint protection film is perfect and it's maintained, but then you're kind of defeating the purpose of why you provided it. You want to protect the expensive paint that's on your vehicle, not the film.
Does it make a difference for a daily driver or is it just for high-end cars?
So there's lots of people that will put PPF on their Hyundai or Honda or Toyota, and I don't blame them for that. Nowadays, every vehicle is insanely expensive. I think PPF has its purpose for everything. Oftentimes, you do generally see paint protection film being on exotics or luxury vehicles. When they're on exotics, it's typically covering the entire vehicle from front to back. Most common packages for PPF are what's considered a full frontal or a track back. And so you're really trying to protect your high impact areas. A full frontal would be the entire front bumper, both fenders, the hood of the vehicle, the mirror caps. And then when you get into a track pack, you're adding on things like A-pillars and then the bottom rocker panels and maybe a rear hoop where lots of rocks like to kick up and hit the sides of your vehicle. But you can do an entire vehicle covered in paint protection film. I don't think that it's necessarily a con to do it on any vehicle. It does come with a hefty price tag though.
What parts of the car should I get covered and how much does it typically cost?
So again, that's kind of in the eye of the beholder of what you're trying to protect on your vehicle. I think bare minimum front bumpers and hoods are a must on every single vehicle. I oftentimes believe it makes the most sense to do at least a full frontal, like we already discussed. So that is front bumper, hood, fenders, and mirror caps. I think that's the most common places that you're often to see bug etching, rock chips, intense impacts. You oftentimes see it there. Now, again, if you have an exotic vehicle and you've gone out and you spent $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a vehicle, it does generally make sense to go and spend 3 to 5% of that vehicle getting it protected, knowing that you have that peace of mind that anything can happen. Somebody can come up and key your vehicle and you can just remove that PPF and your factory paint is in great condition. Paint protection film can vary based off of location and what film they are using and how many panels you're getting done. On average, paint protection film is going to range anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 for an install. $600 being maybe you just need a small front bumper done. $10,000 being you got a brand new Cadillac Escalade and you want to cover every single painted surface. So you can see that it is a pricey film to install and it does have a wide range. So you just need to go in with the realization that the more film you put on the vehicle, the more expensive it's going to get. And this isn't necessarily a budget-friendly service.
What kind of finishes does paint protection film come in?
So typically most people do clear paint protection film, as you can see right here on this little sample hood. You can't really tell where the PPF is, and this is cut in half. So when paint protection film is done right and it's a high quality film, you shouldn't actually tell that it's on there unless you go searching for it. You can see the line goes directly right here on this black hood. If I had done the entire hood, you wouldn't know that there was PPF film on it. It's supposed to be very, very clear. It also does come in things like matte finish. So that was actually originally intended for vehicles that were already having stealth or matte finished paint jobs, and so you needed some type of matte or stealth paint protection film to go on top of it so you didn't gloss that paint. Now a lot of people are just putting that on standard colored cars because it changes the entire look and dynamic of the vehicle. Paint protection film is now also coming in various different colors and even things like carbon fiber look. As we continue to grow this industry, I'm excited to see what it holds because I can imagine we're not too far out from taking a white car and turning it acid green with paint protection film.
How do you install paint protection film?
Paint protection film is incredibly difficult to install, but you wouldn't tell by looking at the tools because here's the tools, squeegees. You do need a knife and you need a couple of spray bottles with your slip solution and your tack solution. That's not the expensive part. The expensive part is the roll. So again, depending on the manufacturer or the brand that you're going with, a roll is going to run you anywhere between about $700 and $2,500 for a full roll. That's pretty pricey. And then you have the labor. To do a vehicle, just a full frontal, you're generally at about 10 hours of labor for a single installer. And if you're doing an entire vehicle, that is a 3 to 5 day process. You're fully dismantling most of the vehicle and then you are squeegeeing out and laying down the film. And it does take a lot of time, as well as the correct environment. You do need to do it in a closed environment with a filtration system, and you need to minimize as much possible dust that's being kicked into the air. A lot of installers will wet the floors before they start to install PPF, and that is just simply so as you're walking by, you're not kicking up dust particles. It's similar to the installation of window tint, but it does differ and some pretty important key aspects. It is not to be confused with vinyl wrap. That is a completely different film. It is also a dry install, and you really don't need to worry about debris or trash getting underneath the film because you don't see it. This is completely clear, so if you get a tiny piece of hair, a little bug, or a sand particle, I promise you, you the customer, will see it and you will point it out to us.
What's the difference between a bulk install and a plotter?
Bulk install is where you're just taking the giant roll of material and it's exactly as it sounds. You are bulking the piece. So if I'm going to be doing this Mercedes hood, I will lay the film out on the entire hood. I will then cut around it, I will roll my edges, and I will cut underneath. And so you try to bulk as many of the large possible pieces that you can. Plotters have revolutionized the game, and if you take a look closely, you can kind of see where you follow the lines here of the actual machine where it's gone through, and it has cut out the intricate pieces of this C8 splitter. That is what you're seeing here. So this machine has gone through and done all of the legwork for us, and it gets us a pretty perfect seamless finish. It does relief cuts, and it cuts around things like emblems, badges. It will cut around sensors, a lot of the difficult stuff that you really don't want to be doing with your hand because a hand is not as consistent as a machine. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope I answered some of your questions and gave you some valuable information. If you have any questions, you are local to Georgia and you want to come to Shine Bright and get some paint protection film installed, please reach out. I'm happy to answer any other questions. If you are not local to Georgia and don't feel like driving 10 hours to come see us, my feelings are hurt, but I understand. I definitely wouldn't want to go with the bottom dollar shops in your area installing paint protection film because it is not a bottom dollar service. This is a high-end, high quality service, and you should expect those results.